There you are.
Hey, Maria.
Hi, Diego.
It's so nice to be in communication and contact. I've been a longtime fan, so I really appreciate this moment with you.
Oh, thank you. I saw that you advertised it with my friend Maria Shriver, and I thank you for that. I really appreciated that. And I was just telling everybody that how much I admire you. And every day, I'm telling you, this you're the only person I can say this about. Sometimes I could say it about Jesus in the Bible, but I
Hmm.
have both of these books with me in my room. And then also when I go and do my meditation in the morning, and I just open them up, Diego, and I just
Hmm.
page, any page, and like here, a hero is one who heals their own wounds and then shows others how to do the same. So let me begin by just saying, I'm so appreciative of your work, of your words. I love words. I love them put
Hmm.
together, and I love what you're doing. I love it.
Thank you so much. I mean, that's such a high honor coming from you. So I'm glad that you're able to connect with these pieces of reflections that I've been coming up with these last few years. So I'm
Yeah.
really grateful.
Well, they are pieces of reflection. They are poems. They are thought-provoking insights. They come from a deep place within. And I want to talk to you beginning about like, where do you write? How do you write? How do you come up with this?
It's a mixture of things. Sometimes pieces will sort of just come to me. They'll come rather complete,
Yeah.
and I'll quickly pop up my phone and jot them down on my notes. Other times, there are pieces that will like slowly come together. Like I feel them maturing, and sometimes they'll take like a month or two to really come together. And other times they come from conversations between my wife and I. We'll be talking about what we're learning or what keeps coming up, what patterns are coming up over and over again, and we'll, I'll try my best to put words to them. Yeah.
And tell me, what is your mission with this? Because I know that you aren't writing these just for yourself. You're writing them for all of us. You're writing them for the 2 million people that follow you on
Hmm.
Instagram. You're writing them for the people that pick up your books. But what is your hope that happens in us when we read your words?
I guess my hope is that a little bit of self-awareness sort of grows inside of whomever is reading them. I really try to write for anyone who's on the inner journey, but specifically for those who maybe have never spoken to a therapist before, who've never meditated before, people who are just starting to turn that lens inward, who've gathered that courage and know that if they do some introspection, that some good will come from that. So I really try to write for whoever's ready to get started. And I know, people find benefit from it from all walks of life, but my ultimate hope is that I know humanity as a whole is really young. That's why I like to write under that name, Young Pueblo.
Right.
It means young people. And if you think back to when we were all very young, the sort of fundamental things that our first teachers taught us were how to clean up after ourselves, how to not hurt each other, how to tell the truth, how to share these really critical things that when you take it to the grander scale of humanity as a whole, we
Mm.
haven't really mastered these things yet. And I think that to be able to master them in the long run, it will take a lot of individual healing. So I try to write for, people who are ready to heal themselves, and that healing will automatically bring a lot of light to their actions. Yeah.
Amen to that. When you say ready to heal yourself, is it your belief? And when I said hi, Diego, Diego is Young Pueblo's real
Hmm.
name, and he writes under Young Pueblo, as he just explained to you. But is it your hope that all of us heal ourselves, and that in healing ourselves, which is my belief, is that in healing ourselves, we become better individuals, better
Yeah.
parents, better citizens, and how we move out into the world is completely different.
Exactly. Yeah. I think we often uh, interact with life through a place of human habit, which is really like how we've been conditioned by society over time, the traumas that we've taken on through life. And if we start peeling back those layers and do that sort of deep work of letting go, of unbinding, whether through speaking with a therapist or whether through using some sort of meditation or prayer, something to connect with something deeper, and
Yeah.
something real inside of you, that your real human nature will start coming forward. So I don't believe human nature is greed or anything like that. I actually believe it's love, it's compassion, it's a sense of goodwill and this new energy for life. And a lot of people who start doing that deeper work, that's what they end up finding, is that they are just so much more creative, and they bring that creativity to whatever type of work. They don't have to be an artist or anything like that, but they can just look at old problems and come up with new solutions. And I think that combined with love, combined with compassion, that powerful creativity is going to help us just create a new sort of society that will be better for more people.
Well, absolutely. We need a new society that will come
Mhm.
from a place of love and compassion and
Mhm.
empathy and respect. How do you think we get there, Diego? Because this is something that I'm constantly writing
Yeah.
about, and we're going to post this conversation in our Sunday paper. But why I so wanted to talk to you is because I think, that much of what you're saying is so important out in our larger world. I mean, what we're witnessing in Ukraine, what we witness
Mhm.
in our cities here in this country and in rural places, the violence, the hatred, the
Right.
greed, the antagonistic nature, the division, really. And you really write for all faiths, all gender,
Mhm.
all economic backgrounds. How do we bring this out into our world and change our political discourse or societal discourse?
Yeah, I mean that's the critical question. I think when you start doing that deep healing work, what ends up happening is that you, as your compassion grows, harm itself becomes less and less of an option, whether that's in your interpersonal life or with what you are allowing to occur in the world. And I think that's why the advent of social media coalesces so well with this like booming healing movement that's happening globally. I think healing has a ways to go in terms of accessibility, but it's undeniably more accessible than ever before. I think in history, like there's more people actively healing themselves and through so many different methods that it's going to have this massive ripple effect. And you'll notice that not only will you be making better decisions for yourself in your personal life, but the way that you view the world, it'll be in such a compassionate framework now, that when you are thinking politically, whether it's left or right, when you're thinking politically, you just won't be inclined towards appreciating or accepting violence. You're just like, that's not, we can actually be a lot more creative than that, and we can
Yeah.
figure out something that works for all parties involved. And I think that, it's going to take time. It's going to take a few generations, but that's the thing that gives me the most hope, is that people are actively going out there and asking themselves, okay, let me try different types of meditations. Let me try different forms of prayer. Let me try different forms of therapy. And when I find the thing that really connects with my intuition, let me stick to it. Let me do it. Let me really try to master it and gain more from it. And from there, there will be so much more beauty that comes from the individual.
Do you call yourself, Diego, a poet? Is this, I've heard you call it some kind of inner transformation. Some people refer to it as self-help. Some people
Mm-hmm.
say, oh, you're a poet. Some people, I've heard you call yourself a student,
Yeah.
just an ongoing student. How do you refer to your work?
Yeah, I really think of myself as a permanent student.
Yeah.
I appreciate that people really connect with what I'm writing, but I haven't mastered anything. I'm still healing. I'm still developing in my meditation practice. I'm only like 10 years into this, in terms of like my own personal healing work. And I have a lot to learn. So I'm not fully healed. I'm not fully wise. But and in terms of the type of writing that I do, I like to just classify myself really loosely as a writer, because for the first few years I did write a lot of poems, and now I feel like I'm enjoying writing more essays, and I don't know what that will look like in the future. So I enjoy the flexibility, and I try not to attach myself to labels, because I've found that identity is much more like a flowing river, and we gain a lot more peace from understanding ourselves as a changing being as opposed to something static.
I love that you always kind of bring it back to understanding yourself. So many of us, and blame whatever it is on somebody else, our situation on somebody else, or think that our happiness depends on someone else, or being
Hmm.
saved by somebody else, being rescued by somebody else. And all of your work brings us back to ourselves, understanding ourselves, realizing we have choices to make and how we respond. Um, Talk a little bit about that, would you, dear? Because I think it's so empowering to actually
Hmm.
take control of yourself and see, oh, this isn't so and so's fault. This isn't my parents' fault, my
Hmm.
ex-husband, my
Hmm.
husband, my partner. This is about me. And
Hmm.
and kind of healing me allows me to go out into the world differently.
Yeah, I think I actually just wrote about this in my latest newsletter that I released on Substack. And it is such an important thing to understand, but also really difficult because some of us have had very traumatic lives. So it's important to empower yourself by tending to the garden of your life so that you remove different toxic elements, whether that is personal habits or people that are just, trying to pull you in the wrong direction. So you definitely have and should take that opportunity to just like try to make your life peaceful and conducive to you being the most wholesome, best version of yourself. But then at the same time, you have to realize that the deepest work that you can do, the greatest obstacle between you and peace is your own reaction. And that means that you have to understand the relationship between your perception and your reaction, because what you perceive that's happening out there, what you perceive will immediately influence what you feel in your body, and then you end up reacting to what you feel.
Right.
You understand that relationship, then you've realized that actually everything is happening inside of you. So like next time when you're driving and someone cuts you off, you start realizing, oh, I actually don't even have to react that way. I don't have to expend my energy with anger. I could just keep focusing on driving safely and not, just send the person good wishes and hope the best for them, as opposed to bringing myself down with them.
I love that so much, because I came to kind of so much of what you're writing about later in life, much later than you did. I wasn't raised to look within, even though I was raised in a religious household, as you were and stuff. And
Hmm.
but it was all about kind of fixing the world. Go out and fix the world. Go out and do the world. And I've heard you talk about you actually can do both
Yeah.
at the same time. You don't have to say, okay, I'm going to spend the next year or two fixing myself, and therefore I can't be a part of whatever's going on in the world or making it better. That you believe that you can actually exist on both tracks.
Yeah, and I think that's like an important thing to understand, because a lot of people think that when you are healing yourself or you're trying
Yeah.
to develop wisdom, that you kind of just go off into the cave and you disappear, or you
Yeah.
just like go to the monastery and you're gone. But it's no, that I mean, we're householders. Like if you have the aspiration to become a monk, I totally support you. But the rest of us are out here in the world and we're still trying to like figure out how to harmonize our relationships, our friendships, our the relationships we have with our parents. And you can only really test how far you've gone by seeing how you deal with the tough moments that arise later on as the healing has already started. And I think that's one of the most valuable points, because okay, it's one thing if you can, sit on the meditation cushion and feel a moment of peace, but can you then bring that peace and influence the sort of tumultuousness around you and actually bring people into your peace as opposed to just falling into the chaos? But I
I,
love that understanding, because it's so important to just know that even with relationships, right? Like let yourself allow organic relationships to arise and see if they're right for you, as opposed to just being like, no, I'm going to take this, infinite time off, which is unreal because life is short.
yeah. Although I have to say to everybody, like I've been stalking him to do this interview, and he was like, when I first approached him, he's like, I'm going for a month. I'm taking a month off to meditate, and please connect back with me in, I think it was like the end of February or something. And I stepped back, I was like, damn, that is really impressive. Like, I was like, and then I wrote down on my calendar the date you gave me. I said, okay, call him then, text him then. I was so impressed with that you have these boundaries, right? That you said,
Mhm.
no, I'm actually going to go. And is that true? You went and meditated for a month?
Yeah, I actually this time from January until the very end of February, I meditated for 45 days. And it was my first like I've done 30-day month-long retreats before, but this was my first 45-day long retreat. And for those 45 days, 43 of them were silent. And then the last day 44 and day 45, we were speaking. So we spend the retreat, the entire retreat, meditating about 11 hours a day. It's Vipassana meditation in the SN Goenka tradition.
Uh-huh.
And that's sort of what got me started and
Right.
introduced me to this whole world of liberation and the understanding of impermanence. And it's just been critical to my personal development. So when I set my year, the first thing that I do is I plan, okay, when am I going to go to retreats? Like when am I going to, take my time to do my long retreat and do sort of a few shorter retreats of service or of meditating. So yeah, I mean, I think above anything else, I'm a meditator first and a writer second. Yeah.
I love that. I mean, I came to meditation about 10, 15, no, about 10 to 12 years ago, and I struggled
Hmm.
desperately with the first 30 seconds, then a minute, then 2 minutes. And now I do kind of religiously every morning, 20
Hmm.
minutes or so, and I try to get in the afternoon, depending. But 43 days of silence. Uh, Diego, what shifts in that kind of intense period of silence? Do you come out feeling new, different?
Yeah, my wife also sat the course too, and she's also been meditating for about 10 years. And we were just talking the other day, and we both were realizing we're like, we feel like we finally just landed, like in, now in April, that we sort of are much more arriving into like the everyday. And, as soon as I got out of the retreat, my email was so full, and I had all these people I needed to respond to, and I was like, okay, let's do it all. But the power of the retreat is that it helps you become so aware. The microscope of your mind becomes so sharp, and you're able to see all these mental movements when you're, in a space of peace, and then boom, craving starts happening, and you can feel it just rippling through your body. And then you start developing a sense of equanimity towards that, and you come back to what's real. You feel the impermanence again, and you see how you sort of move through all these rapid sort of old patterns, and then you develop the new pattern of equanimity. You feel the old pattern of reaction, you develop the new pattern. So one of the things our teacher says over and over is try again, keep trying, and you notice that in the act of trying again, even what you said yourself, 30 seconds was horribly difficult, and
Yeah,
now you can meditate 20 minutes fine. There's still going to be challenges,
right.
but the habit of presence is developing. And I definitely felt so much of that, and I still feel the effects of that now, where life continues being life. There are still
Yeah.
challenges. COVID is still happening. The war is happening. I didn't even know the war was happening. I came out, and when we started speaking again, people were like, "There's a war, and it's a big deal." And I was like, "Wow, I had no idea."
Yeah.
But then, life is there. So, but now it feels just a little bit easier to just come from that place of presence and compassion, so that I can be there for my family, so that I can, support the good things that are happening in the world, and at the same time still maintain my space. Because even if you're a person that has that capacity to help a lot of people, you need to be able to take care of yourself and set your own space. You can call it boundaries or whatnot, but to be able to just nourish yourself, because you can't give endlessly. You have to be able to give back to yourself.
That's so true. Several people here asking for recommendations of retreats, people saying, I can't go that long. There
Mhm.
are silent retreats that are for weekends, some for a week. I know my
Yeah,
brother.
there's so many traditions out there, and you
Yeah,
really kind of got to find the thing that works for you. Like that particular Vipassana tradition that I'm a part of, it comes out of Myanmar, and it's been around for a very long time, and it originates from the Buddha's original teaching. Um, but it's 10 days, and after the 10 days, you can do shorter courses that are like 1 day or 3 days long. But it takes those 10 days because you're trying to basically take your level of awareness. You have this faculty of awareness that it isn't really develop to the strength that it can really be at. Like, we're all so good at intellectualizing, we're good at speaking, we're good at writing, but are you good at feeling? Like, can you actually feel what's happening in your body? And you can take your level of awareness to such a, high level that you can just feel all the subtleties that are changing in the body. You can feel sort of this, flowing energy, atomic stream of change that's happening. And it's quite, powerful, but you have to be able to give yourself the time to make your mind able to feel that.
Many people just sharing different places on here in the comments.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah, sharing all kinds of places, some that are a week, some that are
Mm-hmm.
weekends, some that are private, some that are very different. My friend Jack Cornfield, I saw several people mention his place at Spirit Rock. So there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
places being mentioned here. And once again, we'll put this up in the Sunday paper, but Diego has his own newsletter on Substack, and I'm sure there are mentions of where the places are best to go. A lot of people asking here. People asking, did you talk to your wife in that 43 days? Were you allowed to talk?
No, we were in total silence. We were, I saw her on day 0 when we got to the meditation
Oh,
center, and then I didn't see her till day 44. And people are, they separate themselves according to how they identify. So, she identifies as a woman, I identify as a man, and we separated on both sides. And for those 45 days, you're literally practicing being like a monk. You're just, your eyes are downcast, you're focusing on meditating, and you're not looking around. So,
I
yeah.
love it. Now, once again, Diego has 2 books. He has a third one coming out, and I want to talk to you when the third one comes out, but I couldn't get
Yeah.
it. First one was called Inward. This is Clarity and Connection. You can get that now. You can get them both now. Mine they're totally dog-eared. They're they're everywhere. But on the back of this one, I just want to read it. It says, true power is living the realization that you are your own healer, hero, and leader. And that's unbelievably powerful. I want to reiterate it again. True power. These are his words, the living realization that you are your own healer, your own hero, and your own leader. So you don't have to look outside. Once again, it's understanding who you are, how you move through the world. That is your responsibility. That's what you are reiterating over and over. And then in this one, Clarity and Connection, the back, find a partner who accepts you as you are. That's really hard, right? Or I don't know, it's hard for me, but also inspires you to evolve because they take their own growth seriously. Love will not seek to change you. It will embrace you so unconditionally that you will feel safe enough to heal the old and put effort into the new. The courage you both have to stay committed to the inner journey will reflect brightly on your relationship. So you're talking a lot, Diego, about the individual, the partnership, and then moving out into community, right? From
Right,
there.
right.
And that's really finding somebody who's also values their own journey, not weaving their eyes or saying, like that's
Right.
right. Kind of, what if somebody's on their journey and they happen to be in partnership with somebody who weaves their eyes at it?
Yeah, I mean, what I really, have come to understand, and I found this like even in my own life, when I make new friends or with my old friends, I've realized that they all have this really similar quality where a lot of my friends, they don't meditate at all, but they'll have this capacity to grow. They're literally
Yeah.
willing to grow. And I think that same quality is necessary for relationships that are long lasting, where if you're really going to be together, it doesn't really matter where you're starting, but if you're willing to grow, then there's something there that you can actually build on. And I think that's what makes a lot of relationships quite powerful and beautiful. And I think that's where my wife and I really struggled for the first sort of 6 years of our relationship, where, between the two of us, there was zero emotional maturity. And it was like a hurricane that we were going through. But then when we started meditating and we started realizing, oh, this is actually valuable, it's making a difference in our lives, and we opened ourselves to growing, that's when the harmony slowly started trickling in. And as we developed our self-awareness, we started noticing that, actually, I'm not upset with you, I'm just upset. Like there's stuff coming up,
Yeah.
and my mind will try to find a way to blame it on you when it actually has nothing to do with you. And more often than not, this was the case. And we would find that the mind will, all emotions try to spread themselves, and they'll try to bring people into your same emotion, whether it's happiness or anger. You will invite people to join you in that emotion. And those dense emotions will try to make you quite illogical so you can blame them on someone else.
I love that. It's a kind of that you come to discover that, oh, I'm not upset with you, I'm just upset. And then
Mhm.
asking yourself, what am I upset about?
Right.
And then asking your own body or mind to tell you more about what it is that you're upset about. And it's your own exploration. And that other person maybe is just there as a teacher to have
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
look in.
And sometimes you don't know the cause. Sometimes you just
Yeah.
wake up and you're like, oh, I feel like pretty sad today, or I feel my mind feels rather heavy, or, whatever it may be. But what matters most is then how are you going to move through your day? Are you going to be a little gentler on yourself? Are you going to ask for the support that you need? And, how you respond to it, I think in some ways is much more critical than trying to find like exactly this is where this is coming from, because then you have the opportunity to not multiply it again.
I mean, I was originally reading, I wanted to read uh, almost every page I dog-eared here. I'm serious. I really, I mean, I can't tell you how powerful these books are, these words are. And it's wonderful to follow Diego on social media, but to actually sit with these
Mm-hmm.
books, his words in your hands. I love this. Heal yourself, but don't rush. Help people, but have boundaries. Love others, but don't let them harm you. Love yourself, but don't become egotistical. Stay informed, but don't overwhelm yourself. Embrace change, but keep pursuing your goals. Now, those seem to be almost paradoxes, right?
Yep.
Stay informed, but don't overwhelm. I mean, that's a challenge, right? Love yourself, but don't become egotistical. Challenge,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
somewhere I also read that you were saying that so much of when we're trying to get somebody else to love us, our
Mm-hmm.
pursuit of that is really a lack of love that we have for ourselves.
Yeah, and I think that's a pretty constant struggle. That sense of loneliness that we feel is often because there is distance between us and ourselves, especially if
Pause, pause, pause. Say that again. Say that again. That's so good.
the loneliness that we feel is often because there's distance between us and ourselves. And that distance is usually derived from us not being honest with ourselves. So if
Right.
we can develop just utter honesty with ourselves, then we're going to develop a whole new relationship with the ups and downs that happen privately within yourself.
You talk a lot about having honesty and courage with yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
So is that kind of, I thought that was my morning meditation because I was reading a lot of different things you were doing last night. And I thought, okay, how can we all be more honest? This is Holy Week. I know you were also raised
Hmm.
Catholic.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so, and I take that you don't have to be Catholic to recognize Holy Week. I kind of try to write and think about the
Hmm.
holy that's all around us, right? This
Hmm.
to me is a holy conversation, right, that we're having. And, but, kind of having really deep honesty. What do you mean by that? Like, be honest with yourself, be courageous with your honesty.
I think what it means, so the struggle that I went through was that I was ignoring and trying to hide from the fact that there was this sadness and this anxiety that just kept coming up, especially in my early 20s. And I would try to hide from that by coding my life with pleasure, where I would just be partying, I would be drinking all the time, doing different drugs. And it took me to the point where it just snowballed into these terrible habits. And I wore my body down so much that one night I felt like I was having a heart attack. And I think my life almost came to an end. And when I realized how far I had gone what immediately dawned to me was that I simply was not being honest with myself. And if I had taken the time to just accept that I was not feeling good, that alone would have made a radical difference. And once I decided to put all the hard drugs away, what I did when I got back home was that I wanted to just practice sitting with whatever emotion was coming up in that moment. And it was really hard to literally like, and sometimes I had to like just like put my foot down and just sit down on my bed and just feel whatever it was that was coming up. And sometimes it was like, nasty anxiety or this sadness that I couldn't even, fully grapple with in the beginning. But when I was able to just sit with it, I actually noticed that there was a release of tension because I wasn't adding to it by trying to run away. And that's what I practiced for a whole year before I did my first 10-day meditation course. And literally just sitting with whatever was coming up and being absolutely honest about what I was feeling. And that like radically changed my life.
And do you believe that everybody is capable of radically changing their lives, radically healing themselves?
I think so. And I think that we can't measure it. We can't measure everyone the same way,
Yeah.
right? That people have very different conditioning. And some people have experienced extraordinary trauma that it's important for you to realize where you're sort of starting from and where you're comfortable. I think a lot of the secret to finding your personal healing method is to find something that you do find challenging, but at the same time, you don't find it overwhelming. Because if you put yourself in a situation where just too much stuff is coming up, then you're just going to run away from the introspective process. You want to take it step by step and put yourself in a sustainable method that works for you. So I know for me, I love going away to these long courses and it works well for me. I know for some of my friends and some of my family members, that just wouldn't work for them. And that's totally fine. There are other things out there for them. But I think if you start wherever you are and you sort of find your own entry point into the introspective practices that we're talking about, then you'll at least be able to take a few steps forward in your life. And that will radically change your life and it will really change what you put out into the world.
That to me is the most important thing, right? Or that the both of those things. You can radically change your life wherever you are, and then what you put out into the world,
Mm-hmm.
in your friendships, in your parenting, in your work, in your politics, it will all be different because you're different.
Right.
Right? And you coming back to his words, you are the healer, you are the leader. And this, I love this. I want to end with this because you have this thing that says phrases that the brave and wise commonly use. I don't know. I'm sorry. Thank you. I love you. And those, reading that to me, like, I did not grow up thinking brave people spoke like that.
Yeah, and that's something that I've learned too, because it takes a lot of emotional fortitude and a lot of emotional maturity to just say like, I don't know. Like I don't really know what's going on and I have a lot to learn. Or for someone to even say, I love you, even like, and that's something that I'm really loving about how times have changed, where friends now are much more accustomed to just telling their friends like, I love you, man, like I love you so much. And
Yeah.
you can just bring light to that bond.
Yeah.
And I think it takes a lot of inner security to be able to do those things, but those are some of the most special people. Like if they're able to just witness themselves and then share that openly with those that are close to them, then they're powerful people, in my opinion.
Yes, I love that because when we think of powerful, we have such a different image. When we
Yeah.
think of bravery, we have such a old image. And what his
Hmm.
words are, I think, really changes, or did for me anyway, kind of how I can look at bravery, right? How I can look at power. I can look at somebody who says, I don't know, or I'm scared. I can look at them and assign those same words to them. And that is radical shift for
Oh
us.
yeah, and even today, like where on Twitter and if when you're on the news and when you're on Instagram, everybody's an expert.
Yeah,
Everyone knows what's going on, and like, but the people who are like, I don't know, I'm actually still learning what's happening. Like even
yeah,
personally, when I came out of that 45-day retreat, I didn't know anything about the situation in Ukraine. So I was like, okay, hold on. Let me not just like jump on the ship. I want to take a moment to just try to take in what's happening before I just start, opining and putting anything out there, because I literally don't know. And I think that's something that's really difficult, where we feel a lot of social pressure to just jump on the next thing and jump on the next
yeah.
thing. And when what we're really doing is just adopting another person's opinion as opposed to developing our own.
I
So
love
it's tough. It's tough.
and everybody's rushing. So
Yeah.
much of what you're talking about requires uh, a different tempo than the one that's valued in our society, right? Everybody's responding quickly on Twitter, but also just being able to slow yourself down and say, like, okay, what is that before I respond in that conversation? What am I actually feeling? Once again, coming back to the self. And
Yeah.
imagine if our political leaders, if we allowed them the time and they took the time. This is a joint thing, right? Us as a society have to give people the time, and then they have to be wise enough to say, I need the time to actually say something. And we have to be okay with somebody in a position of power saying, I don't know.
Yeah, I was just with Jack Cornfield and a bunch of other great people at Wisdom 2.0 in San Francisco,
Uh-huh.
and we were joking about, imagine if our political leaders had to at least meditate for like 10,000 or 20,000 hours before they could even become eligible to run, where they have developed their sense of presence, developed their sense of self-awareness to that point where they can actually lead from a place of love and just be so much more inclusive in the way that they deal with global situations, because it's hard to see the world constantly ebbing and flowing from a mild calmness to just utter chaos. And it's and in reality it's never really quite calm. You look at all this human history and there's just so much violence that's pretty consistently happening. And I think that my great hope is that more and more people will really do that deep inner work, so
Yeah.
that harm no longer becomes an option in their mind. They're like, okay, we're not going to tolerate war. We need to find a better solution for this.
Thank you, my friend, so much for taking the time on this Holy Thursday to speak with me. I want to reiterate again, this is called Clarity and Connection. This is called Inward, both of these books. And he has a new book that you can pre-order. I couldn't get
Mhm.
it on time, called Lighter, right?
Yep,
What,
that's right, later.
what, when does that come out?
That one's coming out October 4th, and it's going to be a nonfiction book. So it'll have a few poems in there, but it'll really be like a deeper story.
Yeah, so we'll do this again, I hope, when your book comes out. And I'd love to get you on the Today Show or do a piece with you, because I think really what you're doing is so powerful and so inspiring. I wish I could read every single thing in here. It's just so many great things. So I'm really grateful that we got to connect. Thank you for calling me your friend. I'm glad we're friends. And thank you for what you put out on social media, in your books, and into the world and into our hearts, because it makes a difference. It certainly has to me. And so for those of you who don't have these books, please get them.
Thank you so much, Maria. This has been absolutely wonderful. And I look forward to us talking again and hopefully getting to hang out in the future.
I'd love that. I'd love